Existential crises and Black Mirror go together like... Well, Existential Crises and Black Mirror, they are the most perfect match in my eyes. But before I talk about the episode Plaything, I want to talk about Capaldi's performance. I loved him in this. I mean, he's one of those people that I don't think I've ever seen a bad performance. I've seen some perhaps less than ideal ones, but that's mostly been the material letting him down. He always seems to give his best regardless of what the words on the page are. And it works so well here. Similarly, Lewis Gribben playing the younger version of Cam, you can believe this is the same person at 2 time points in the lifespan. I think he did really well of matching Capaldi and vice versa. They both work together to create Cam, and it is believable that this is the same person. But this is almost sort of biographical, or autobiographical for Charlie Brooker's history. He used to be a games journalist. I mean, I don't know if he was quite like Cam, this very insular kind of person, but it was a job he had. Additionally, he got very attached to Tamagotchis, as did we all when they came out. I wasn't one of those who gave it to family members to look after when I went to school or whatever, but I remember being upset when they died, and I'm just like, it's not real, it's not alive. Why am I upset by that? But it is one of those things, it did take hold, and that both of those elements do clearly inform this. But with the arrest of Cam, we have Minter sort of saying, well, I'm the psychologist, so he goes into his history. And my psychological learning, was like, yep, this sounds definitely like attachment issues. He's neglectful mother or detached mother, abusive father. Is it true or is it sympathy gaining? I don't know. If it is true, it does make sense. We see Cam as this very typical nerdy loner type. Now, I don't think this is meant by Charlie Brooker to be gamers are nerds and lonely and everything like that. I mean, we are nerds, but we're not all like Cam, because technically Charlie Brooker would be saying he's like that too. But it is a stereotype that people understand. Now, I think people get it the wrong way round. A lot of people think gaming turns you into a reclusive weirdo. It can. There are elements, or there are cases where I'm sure that's happened. But I think mostly it's people who have struggled to socialise in the real world finding an outlet. I do think it's more of a coping mechanism than a changing you into something worse. Again, the situation with Cam's very different here. But I just want to sort of right that wrong, because I don't want people to take the wrong message from this and say, clearly, look, gaming's bad because it turned you into this. I think LSD is what turns him into this. And that's an interesting part of this entire episode. I think the LSD is the biggest part. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I will come back to that later on. So, of course, like I say, we see the history, we see Lewis Gribben's version, and we see him invited back to Tuckersoft. So, again, we get to see Asim Chowdhury and Will Poulter as Mo and Colin, respectively. And I genuinely think that the timer may have been for medication. I will concede that, but I don't think it was explicitly or solely for that. I think this idea of, I'm going to tell you about this, I'm going to make you want it, but it needs to be a choice you make. It can't be just, I'm doing it for a job and I'm going to take it. You've got to make a willful choice to go, I'm taking this and I'm running because I'm interested. So I think it was a way to say, I'm leaving the room. What you do when I'm not here is on you. Given the thing about the throng and everything like that, is the idea of cooperation and growth that way. I do genuinely think it was a get him curious and then leave the room. But once we, because obviously we interject between the present and the past, and there was a moment, and I just want to put the clip in because the moment I spotted it, I skipped back and went, wait. So I'll just play it and then see what you think.
You said earlier that you did have human friends.
Sorry?
You said earlier that you'd made some friends as an adult.
So we don't see her lips when she says human friends, and only on the clarification or correction, whatever it might be, to adult friends. As we learn a bit later after this, obviously, the LSD is a thing, and the dendritic branching is a thing. You do get more dendrites, which are the bits that receive the signal. So it's entirely believable that his brain is physiologically changed to effectively hallucinate now without LSD. If he's used it that much throughout his contact with the throng, I don't think he even needs it anymore. The real world is no more real to him than not. I genuinely think that's a moment where we're in his delusion. I don't think she says human friends. He mishears that. The throng mishears that, maybe, I don't know. But when we get on to Lump, who is played to perfection because I hate the guy, and we're meant to. But I wonder if Cam ever knew his name, or whether there is an element of like, I don't like this guy, I never liked this guy, the fact I killed him is secondary, I just did not like the guy, I don't even want to think of him as a human, so calling him lump. He is a lump, he's nothing more than just a mound, a pile, a thing. It is dehumanising something that has caused him distress. So when he says, I don't know his name, I kind of believe it, but I think it's not so much he never knew his name, it's he didn't care to devote the energy on remembering it. But of course, through Lump is where we get the LSD, which leads to one of my favourite scenes in a way, like the trip on public transport. Because we see the ads, like even before he's looking and we see them in close-up. I actually noticed as soon as the scene's there, I saw they know across everything. And I thought it was a wonderful touch. But that journey is to, rush getting this report out as he's just been devoting time to the throng rather than actually doing his job. But obviously once in the office, his boss is made aware that Colin's gone off the deep end again, as they say, and he doesn't need to do it because they're not releasing it. What comes up, it says something about, ranting about a basilisk. Now, if you know what that refers to, I implore you, please do not put it in the comments, because if it is real, technically you're responsible for that information. I'm not going to go into it. If you want to look up yourself and find out, that's on you. But I will say that it does tie in very well to this episode. Like I say, it's one of those things that when you know about it, it's a whole quandary. But once we see, I guess, Cam's gamer rage, it's not so much gamer rage, it is a fact of these are lives to him, these matter, and someone has killed his friends, effectively. So eye for an eye kind of comes in, which is not really how he is later on, but again, this is very much earlier in his journey. And that's when we learn exactly what the body in the bag is. It is literally a lump. But I do like how when he reveals the fact that he intended to be caught, this whole idea of, the code that he's trying to get out there when he's scrawling the QR code kind of thing. When he's doing all this and he's like, I intended to be here, I had a plan, I just need to draw this and everyone in the world will now be part of the throng effectively. It made me think of the Trojan horse. The old, sort of Greek legend, you had a bunch of soldiers that are like, oh look, we have a gift, and then they bring it in and the soldiers spill out and kill people. This is where we get the term a Trojan for a virus, which is also code. It does give that uncertainty, that edge of, if it is real, are the throng really that good? Because they effectively used Cam like a Trojan horse. He was literally sent in there to infect everyone else. But this is very interesting because it's an open-ended Black Mirror episode, technically. We don't know that it's actually as described. We don't know that it's the throng doing this. What could have happened, one potential outcome, is guy got heavily into this virtual life sim thing, took a bunch of drugs, believed that they were telling him things, did all this weird out of the box kind of stuff, and then designed a code that somehow caused some weird mental shutdown. That's possible. Or it worked as described, and these people will eventually rise up and be part of the throng. Or it's a lot more like the basilisk thing that I'm really, again, not going into detail of, but it could be that. That's what I like about Black Mirror in general. This isn't one of those that, I've got masses and masses amounts of analyse this, analyse this. This basically boils down to two concepts. Do people, when people are under the influence of chemicals, can we trust them? That's a big one in a way. That's very overt, that's not really going deep. But more so, is digital life, is virtual life sentient? Does it have rights? This has been a constant throughout Black Mirror, even last week with Hotel Reverie and Dorothy. Is she alive? Is she a sentient being? Was the reset in that bad for her? Was that technically killing someone off? Likewise, are the members of the throng here, the thronglets, real? And was Lump killing them just as bad as killing a human or an animal? And it doesn't give you the answers. That's what I like about Black Mirror. It doesn't give you the answers all the time. So I'd be interested, leave a comment, what your thoughts are. What do you believe happened? Is this just a deluded man, or are there sentient AI bots controlling him and taking over the world? I do want to know. So next time we're going for a more heartfelt episode, and it's one I enjoyed, although I think consensus isn't so good on it from what I've seen, but I'll talk about that more next week. But I hope you join me for that and everything coming down the line. But until then, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.